listening?
I just don't care.
No one is ever kidding Michael Cole.
Of course he can roll a grudge forever. This is wrestling.
Welcome back to This Is a Work. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I'm here to introduce your host, Robert, the distinguished gentleman Brafford.
Thank you, David. Good to be back here in the booth at Kayfabe Outpost 1. With me, as always, is my tag team partner, Chris, the Fashion Plate Barnes. How you doing, Chris?
I feel like AEW has no respect for my time, but continue.
And joining us in the third leg of our trio is Cara, the Hot Tag Hayes. Cara, welcome and thanks for coming aboard.
Thanks for having me.
For those of you who don't know, Cara is, of course, married to former This Is a Work host David Two Dogs Hayes.
R.I.P.
His better half.
Agreed.
Let's see. So let's just dive right into Double or Nothing, the 5-year anniversary show of AEW held in
5.5 hour show.
Yeah, wow.
They knew Memorial Day was the next day, and they milked it.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. Longtime listeners know that David Hensley and myself are involved, and Cara are involved in a theater company that performs in and around the Rock Hill area. We had a show that finished and had to be taken down and loaded out that day. So essentially, David and I finished that up, and I just got back to my house with about 20 minutes left in the pre-show and just kind of collapsed into a chair. So I was not really taking notes or anything. There was a lot of refreshing I had to do between first watch and now the Saturday after the show when we're recording. To the extent that I actually don't still have a lot to say about the pre-show after having gone back and seen it. 2 matches, which is light for AEW, but yeah, we open up with Thunder Rosa versus Deonna Purrazzo. Just a singles grudge match, no title on the line. Any thoughts on that, y'all?
No, I didn't.
No, at that time,
I'm
I think
terrible.
we were all just kind of chatting and
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pre-show was paid not
the
a bit of
pre-show was
attention.
kind of backgroundish. I just know Purrazzo stole the win.
Yeah, so she wins it with a roll-up coming out of a kind of a... Thunder Rosa has her in a headlock kind of on the ground in almost a cross-face position. Purrazzo goes for the ropes. Thunder Rosa... It actually was a pretty cool move. Rosa puts a boot on the ropes and kicks herself away to sort of roll into the ring to keep the submission going. But instead, Purrazzo turns into a roll-up and grabs the ropes for the pin. So it was like, okay, that was a nice moment. I do like that we have a non-title match. I do like that this has just kind of mostly been a TV story that isn't revolving around anything other than 2 wrestlers who don't like each other. It's something that, you want to see them doing more of in the women's division. But yeah, I gave it 2 3/4. Just both ladies did well. Just it was very much a crowd is still filing in kind of match. There was something that came up after that, though. We did have an announcement from Tony Khan and Dr. Martha Hart. This is the 3rd year of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. But there's actually going to be a twist this year where the winners of each bracket of the tournament are going to be challenging for the world titles, the men's and women's respectively, at All In. Which is interesting because, that previously it's just been you get kind of your flowers, and I think they had belts made the first year.
First year was trophies, I think. Second year was belts. Or I have that back.
Yeah, no, because I remember Adam Cole and Britt Baker won the first year.
They got matching belts, yes.
And second year was Willow Nightingale and... I've forgotten who the second year champion was, but I think they just kind of got like flowers and recognition. But I'm excited for it. AEW tends to do tournaments pretty well, so interesting to see them building that to a world title shot. Because
when you said there was a twist, the dumb part of my brain went, "They're gonna face Owen." And I was like, "No, shut up."
Dark forces are being invoked to make this main event happen.
I mean, Malachi's still on the roster.
I mean,
I saw Sting.
I'd watch that.
I saw Sting wrestle a main event live, so who's to say that could stop anybody from competing?
I would watch live necromancy.
Yes.
Oh, also a nice thing we should all be grateful for. Tony Khan, when he came out to make the announcement, had recovered from his severe neck injury, thankfully. His neck brace was off. He appeared to have full mobility and use of his limbs, which is never guaranteed with these things.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think my favorite touch in the whole thing, they announced that he would be donating the neck brace to a charitable auction as soon as it was no longer needed. That was something they were always clarifying. Like, as soon as he doesn't need to wear it anymore, it'll be auctioned off. All right, so, and by the way, I'm just popping open. My beverage for the show was a Sierra Nevada Summerfest Summer Lager. Just kind of more refreshing beer. I had a couple of drinks that night, which...
Summerfest. We're not here to talk about WWE.
Yeah, I'll be drinking apparently 2 of these each go when we get to SummerSlam, because I hear we're looking at making that one a 2-nighter. Not this year, but down the road.
2026, actually.
Yeah, I heard. Oh, I thought it was 2025. That's
I think I saw 20.
better?
Either way.
Not this
Either
year,
way,
but
it's-
Yeah, they're test running. I was telling what's his face over there on the way over, Robert.
oh yeah, the guy.
That was genuine. I'm so sad for myself right now. But yeah, I was talking about it on the way over. It's like SummerSlam is really the only other one they can do a 2-nighter out of, because the Royal Rumble doesn't need 2 nights.
Oh,
It doesn't
God,
need
no.
it doesn't need extra matches.
And
No,
Survivor
it
Series
just needs
is
one match.
Survivor Series is kind of just in a legacy in the Big Four
That-
right now.
Yeah, that would only need something like that if they went back to making it a Thanksgiving tradition like it used to be.
If all of us are still doing this in 2026 or 25, whenever they do it, I look forward to.
If we're not dead by each other's hands.
Yeah. I look forward to learning my lesson from this year's WrestleMania episode and recording 2-night events as 2 different episodes of the show. All right, taking it back to AEW, second match on the pre-show is a trios match between the Acclaimed and Cage of Agony, which was formerly the Mogul Embassy, but after turning on Swerve, it's now Brian Cage, Toa Leona, and Bishop Khan. Again, fun trios match.
Cage of Agony is an object, not a group.
Yeah. I think my favorite thing was on commentary they were getting mixed around. Cage of Anarchy, it's Cage of Agony. Anarchy in the Arena comes later. I think Shivani had to correct Taz on that one. But yeah, so fun match. The Acclaimed are a little cooled off, but man, I love seeing Billy Gunn back in that ring. That guy's still going. He has like a pose off with Brian Cage. Ends up winning with an inside cradle that, again, like I couldn't do that, and I'm literally half his age, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so fun match. Again, I give it 2.5, still warming up, but yeah, not a lot to say on that one.
No, I do love seeing Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
You know, he was part of wrestling when I came back into it, when I met David. And so it's kind of a blast from the past, sort of like Sting, but Sting was really more for me when I was a teen. Yeah. It's weird seeing, you know, your childhood come back around.
Yeah. And there'll be a little more of that on this card. More still to come.
Agreed.
So we open the main show with the AEW International Championship being defended by Roderick Strong against Will Ospreay. Man, Will Ospreay is amazing. Like, just the, like, again, opening pre-show matches, fine, crowd's still getting settled, but as soon as Ospreay's music hits and he comes out, that whole arena just lights up. My favorite thing, and this is something that at Revolution, when we saw Ospreay versus Takeshita, I get very into chanting at wrestling shows, and part of Ospreay's music is the da-da-da, and they build to Ospreay, Ospreay, and I can never remember that it's only twice, so it's that awkward thing where the rest of the arena falls silent, and I'm just Ospreay, damn it, sinking back into my chair. But yeah, no, they're lighting up for it. Don Callis, who is still technically affiliated with Will Ospreay, in the way that, like, that person who is like on the last day of their 2-week notice is technically still working at the company.
Ospreay is still on his journey of finding out that wrestling moves can hurt people.
Yeah, I love that his face turn is just that he's like starting to feel a little bit bad about doing moves that could leave somebody potentially paralyzed for life. Because yeah, following up on his match with Danielson,
It's one of the funniest journeys you can have as a wrestler.
like, we actually get to a point in this match where at Callis' encouragement, and Callis doesn't just like shout, "Do the move." He gets in the corner with, and Ospreay comes over to listen to him, and he like makes like a snapping motion with his hands.
He's like into him.
Like he is charadesing, like, this is what I want you to
It's
do
like-
to his vertebra.
Like, break his neck for real again.
And Ospreay like lifts him up for the Tiger Driver and then pauses and just, like you do, holding a man upright by his arms with his legs in the air, and then decides, no, I'm better than this, and sets him down. I was looking forward to this match for a while just because I knew they were going to be good, but this whole thing came about because Ospreay won a Casino Gauntlet match. It was just one of those things where, he wins this special match on Dynamite to face it. But they really revved up the angle on this one because, they had like a pretty intense backstage promo, and then the United Kingdom ambushed Ospreay in the ring, busted him open, and like rubbed his blood on the belt. And then Ospreay cut a promo backstage with blood quite literally still dripping out of his face.
I've had disagreements with my coworkers. I don't know if it's ever escalated that far.
Yeah, it's wrestling. Everything kind of starts right under that level. It's like escalating to touch your roof when you're already in the attic.
I wish it was, allowed, because there is certainly somebody that needs that treatment.
We all have that coworker where we look at and we're just like, maybe the only way to resolve this is in a cell.
Coworker, customer. The problem starts with a C usually.
Yeah.
Let's see. So fun match.
The funny part is that wavering bit led to a really good series of near falls and like back and forth on who's going to take the win.
I always like that.
And the thing about Ospreay is he just sells every move. Like he's almost up there with Pac in terms of just like how rubbery his body gets to sell a move. There was a pretty scary bit where Taven and Bennett, who came out with Strong, got him set up for the Doomsday device outside, and I think it was Taven had Ospreay on his shoulders, and Bennett tried to go over the ropes to hit him, but his foot got caught, and so he just kind of like tapped him, and Ospreay just threw himself backwards off of Taven's shoulders, and it looked like he came down straight on his head.
I was convinced that he would have a broken neck or be dead.
I mean, no, the replay showed he took it on his shoulders, thankfully, but it was just, he's really good. He's really good.
But just fun match overall. It does kind of start a trend that's going to keep going through, which is there are a lot of run-ins and interference on this card, which is not normally AEW's thing. I mean, they've got their heels who will do that as much as everybody, but I actually looked over, and I think it was out of the, I think there were 12 matches across the card. 2, 3, 4, 5. Half of them had an outside party running in to try and interfere.
That's too much.
Kind of ironically, the Anarchy in the Arena match, which is completely no rules, unsanctioned, whatever, is one of the few where only the advertised fighters were getting involved.
Well, that's the thing I've mentioned before is like sometimes, I don't know if it's just because of certain producers or just what happens, just like there just happens to be always usually something that tends to show up in a majority of the matches, whether it's a certain move or a spot, or in this case, the idea of people interfering.
And again, I get it. It's part of wrestling. It's one of those basic things. It's like complaining about seeing, too many clotheslines on the card. But it did sort of start to feel a little bit like, and a lot of it was the same way. Like they get away with like 1 or 2 hits, and then the ref spots it and starts ejecting people, and which is what happens here. That eventually, I think.
Well, no, that only truly came into play later on, but.
It only the full eject only happened, I think, in 2 of them, but it does happen here because Taven and Bennett both get thrown out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which
right.
has little relevance for what happens after the match. Ospreay does eventually go over, gets his Stormbreaker finisher, which is like his murderous finisher number 3.
That's less murdery. That's why it's number 3.
Gets the pin and wins his first belt in AEW. So Will Ospreay is your international champion. He celebrates, the crowd goes nuts, Strong limps to the back. And then, now that all the members of his faction have been kicked out, Adam Cole comes out, deciding now is the best time to cut a promo, having only recently regained the ability to stand upright. He decides to come down, hold up his devil mask, and then lights go out and we get a video. A video of somebody walking through a home with pictures of a certain former AEW world champion, a lot of mementos, from his mask or his matches.
If you ever wanted to know what it was like to play a first-person shooter as MJF, this is the video for you.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And that
The only
is,
thing it missed was Doom music behind it.
I'm sure we're going to see that fan cut at some point. But we do indeed see that, yep, the music hits and MJF comes back out for the first time since losing the title
And
at
what
World's
is
End.
he wearing?
He is wearing,
He's wearing the Triple H special.
yeah,
I
the
love it.
denim-ish vest with like the long sleeves. He's not wearing a scarf, notably.
No, it's a leather jacket
It's
with
leather
the
with the denim over it. There it is.
over, yep,
over,
denim
yeah.
vest.
It's a denim vest over a leather jacket.
I'm sorry, it just
but
looks
size
so
to,
good.
But size to him, because Triple H always wore the biggest, bulkiest version to me.
Yeah, no, it. Oh my God, I think I have finally relented to MJF. The whole. I really didn't want to like him, but I really kind of do.
That's his whole thing.
I know, and I hate it. But yes.
So he accepts a hug from Cole, and as we all know, he eventually was going to do, just go straight ahead and kicks him in the balls. Gives him a brain buster, which Cole takes very well, even though they're saying he's nowhere near ring cleared, but he can at least take that move. And cuts a pretty intense promo about not only is he back, not only has he learned his lesson about ever trusting anyone again, not only is he done with the kangaroo kicks and the friendship, apparently he has made a decision about where he's going to be spending the next few years, because he reveals a tattoo on his, I think it's the back of his right calf, saying "Bet on yourself" with an AEW poker chip.
Just want to point out that the stuff about learning his lesson about friendship, just no one picked up that phone when I fucking called it.
That was where that was going. It is interesting because this sort of felt like these were going to be the two big stories for MJF in 2024, the bidding war, which they'd been teasing for a while, and a feud with Adam Cole. And, I mean, obviously Adam Cole's injury meant that, okay, that just wasn't going to be something they spent too much time on. I was a little surprised to have him come back and immediately announce, yep, I'm signed, I'm
Well,
here.
it's because they know the crowd still likes him. It's just like he's at this point, he's almost like non-working class Stone Cold in a way.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Maybe not exactly, but in a lot of ways he is. Because while he said he was done making nice and being friends, at the same time, he still wasn't, there was a specific point where he, I think, didn't he call he called the fans something, I think it was Marks or something, and he went, no offense. Which means, he's back to being nasty MJF, but at the same time, it's clearly going to be directed at the bad people.
Yeah. Now, I'm excited to see where they go with him next. And
Yeah.
one thing I will kind of miss, he took the double mask, did a flare strut followed by an elbow drop onto the mask, and then hurled it into the crowd. So yeah, I gave that whole match a 4. Strong and Ospreay worked really well together. Really fun. Excited to see where they go with Ospreay now that he's a champion. And when we get a little further down the card, I'm curious to talk about to get y'all's take on where they seem to be going with him next. But
I think I know why the sequence of things happen the way they do, but we'll get there.
yeah. All right, so next up we have another Trios match, this time for the Unified World Trios Championship. That's the AEW and Ring of Honor titles, with the Bang Bang Gang of Jay White, Austin Gunn, and Colton Gunn versus the best named faction in all of professional wrestling, Death Triangle. That's so good to see the Lucha Bros back on TV. And Pac, really just all, it's a whole team of people that just make me smile when they're on my television. I'm made to love those guys. And I think Phoenix was coming back from a pretty bad shoulder injury, so yeah, he's clearly making up for lost time with this one.
Making up for lost muscle too.
Oh my
Lord, that
gosh,
man's jacked
yeah.
now.
It's not like he was a skinny guy before, but when they show him flexing on the opening, it seems he's gotten about 6 inches wider in either direction.
Gotta do something with your time off.
Exactly. Ah, man. But yeah, so this one was just a really good time. The Guns have become some of the best bump sellers in the company. Just they fly like ping pong balls anytime they get hit. They go flying through ropes to the other side of the ring.
Yeah.
And just so combine that with Penta and Phoenix, just their off the ropes offense and everything. It was just it felt like there was almost no point in this match where somebody wasn't flying through the air.
Oh no, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it earlier. Like no one rubber legs like Pac does.
Oh yeah. And I like that they kind of give little moments for him and Jay White to kind of face off in the ring, because I think they're definitely letting that go a little further as a singles feud once we're past this. But yeah, just not a lot to say, which isn't to say I didn't like it. It's just so much of it was just the energy, the intensity, and everybody moving around.
There's nothing to say because it needs to be witnessed, honestly.
Yeah. Just a very visual, very exciting, very intense match. Does end with another run-in, although this one, again, wasn't bothering me at this point, because the run-in is when Pat goes up for a black arrow, he gets shoved off by a returning Juice Robinson.
Yep.
That, I keep wanting to say Cocoa Puffs. No. Cookie Crisp? No.
Honeycomb.
Honeycomb. There we go.
You're thinking of the
Yes.
honeycomb monster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Google it.
Yeah, just comes in, finally making his return, shoves Pac off the turnbuckle. When he gets back up, Jay White hits him with a Blade Runner and pins him. So Bang Bang Gang retains and are reunited as a foursome. I gave it 3 3/4. Just really fun match. Great energy from everybody involved. And excited to see if they keep going with Pac and Jay White on the singles side. All right, next up, we have the match for the AEW Women's World Championship between Timeless Toni Storm and Serena Deeb, the Professor. The thing about Timeless Toni, I love this gimmick and have loved it ever since she started doing it. It did feel like there was a bit where she was kind of struggling, and I think I've mentioned this before, struggling to kind of incorporate her in-ring style, which is very sort of New Japan influenced, very like hard striking, very intense, with the faded diva theatrics. And I think they've finally, in the last couple of pay-per-view cycles, they've really dialed into that. And I think, especially with somebody as technical as Deeb, it worked really well. What'd y'all think of this one?
I like watching Toni Storm work.
Yeah.
You know, she just, I like you, I love the gimmick. I think it's a little different, you know, and I appreciate that. But I really enjoy just watching her.
I saw a guy, I think it was from Voices of Wrestling, but he was doing his write-up on this, and he was just furious at this match, which, okay, nothing's for everybody, but he says he hates Tony's gimmick because he's like, I need to believe this stuff could really be happening. And I'm like...
All of it?
Yeah, I was like, that's the...
I watch wrestling because I don't believe this would actually
Right.
happen. That's the fun... Do you know how relieved I found out after I became a fan that this was all a work?
Yeah.
That this wasn't like real?
I think that line from The Prestige where it's like, if people believed this stuff was real, they wouldn't be clapping, they'd be screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, that's, again, people can like or not like what they like, but that's just the dumbest reaction I've seen to anything in pro
These are
wrestling.
the people who are like, Batman needs to be realistic every time he's on screen.
No, yeah. If you want realism, watch documentary.
They came out to music and pyro.
Wait, you don't? That doesn't happen to you?
No,
like, when you,
not
okay.
outside of my hallucinations.
Oh, okay. All right, just me then.
We're just looking at the very next match on this card is the Pockets Man. Like, just it's again, you don't have to love every single gimmick, but it's just like if your only acceptable type is like guys who are just angry MMA looking dudes. Nothing wrong with
Watch
that.
MMA.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, please.
over here we have costumes and pageantry and like fun, colorful characters. It's awesome.
why
Join
we
us when
like
you're
it.
ready.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories about this kind of thing comes from Mick Foley's book, where he talks about Terry Funk getting interviewed by a reporter about the ridiculousness of pro wrestling, and he proceeds to go, it'd be really neat if every time I came out this happened and wouldn't that be outlandish? And they were like, yeah, and they agreed with every step, and I can't remember all of them, but the story ends with Terry Funk going, that's what happens every time it was a Texas football team scores a touchdown. He's like, so it's like what is your line? What is it? Because you don't like this? Okay, cool.
And it's also just such a weird place to draw it, especially for something that, like, because she does work it into not just like, oh, she's an old movie star. She comes out and she's got an old-time wrestling singlet. Like, she's wrestling like somebody you would have seen, like, if you saw a women's match such as it was in the like 40s or 50s.
If he's ever liked an Undertaker match, that man's a fucking hypocrite.
You know, I couldn't really bring myself to look that much further, but I have a feeling, I'm like, I don't think I would see this on every match with The Undertaker or Kane or, wait a minute, John Cena was never in the U.S. Marine Corps. Like,
And I can see him.
yeah, he's lying to us every time. Why are these
Yeah.
people cheering? But yeah, so I just, especially when Tony is as on fire as she was there, because it really was just a great bit of like her just kind of hitting a brick wall with like every time she tried to build offense with the strikes, Deeb would lock her into like a crab or a submission, and just it's a nice bit of like, yeah, you've got to figure out something else because this person can neutralize most of your go-to stuff. And
it was so terrifying. Mariah May tried to throw in the towel.
yes, great bit of drama on the outside when I think this was the single leg grab, and Tony was trying to
like
get
the
to
fifth
ropes.
one, I think, because that happened a lot.
Yeah, she was really working the leg, but right as Mariah's about to throw it, Luther grabs it out of her hand, which is around the time that Tony does get out of the hold, looks out and sees Luther holding up the towel, and just gives the most wonderful shout of "You bastard!" I'm so looking forward to that thing imploding. I don't want their status quo to end. I love it so much, but it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be interesting to see when it finally implodes and they the implication that Mariah May's been secretly been trying to Owen Hart her the whole time. I mean, because that's the big storyline between Owen and Brett was Owen Hart just working against him until they flat out started feuding.
And that's kind of the big question: is who's going to turn first, Mariah on Tony or Tony on Mariah? Or...
It looks like they're building it that she's going to think Luther's working against her, and then Mariah's going to go for the big backstab.
Yeah, that's what I think we could have is like a couple of like a build up where like Tony thinks Mariah's going to turn and she thinks it's coming and she's just getting more and more vicious and paranoid, and then she finally backs down. It's like, okay, maybe I was wrong, maybe I was too suspicious. And that's when Mariah.
That's why Mariah's keeping her eyes on Luther.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, fun match. I gave it 3.5. Storm goes over when Deeb, after being unable to get her to submit with a lot of ground moves, Deeb actually tries going up to the corner, but Tony basically chases her up and does her Storm Zero move off the top rope, which is a risky spot for a pile driver, but they pulled it off pretty well. So yeah, 3.5.
She was very well protected.
Yeah. So good match. Good to see Serena Deeb getting to do her thing and screw that guy. Enjoy gimmicks and enjoy characters. This is wrestling. Next up, we have Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta in a singles match. No title, just a broken friendship behind them all. Mm-hmm. This is interesting because this kind of reminds me of Jimmy and Jey Uso, where it feels like they've had so long to build for this and so much emotion going in. It's not bad, but it just doesn't quite feel like it's at the, like, these guys really want to kill each other register that I feel like they could be. Now, granted, it doesn't seem like they're done with the story, but it was weird to come into a pay-per-view with them having already had a match on television that Orange Cassidy won clean, and then have them here again, no extra stipulation or anything else. So I liked the match, but it did feel like it's either underwhelming or it's a step onto something bigger. And either way, that does knock it down just a little bit for me. But what'd you guys think?
It was fine for what it was. I mean,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not me saying I didn't enjoy it. It was just that I was like, it felt like there may be a better match still ahead of us, and they're kind of saving up for it.
It's a good match, and it was more importantly a break because there was a lot leading up to this, and there's a lot coming after this. I think this was placed perfectly in for what
popcorn match.
Essentially. Yeah. But I mean, popcorn matches are never always 100% the bad match.
No, absolutely.
The popcorn match is like it's like when you have like a TV show you like on and you can just dip in and out and do other things.
It's the safe time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the go down easy match. Like
it's like you can check back in on this later and it's still good. It's just like, I can walk away safe for sure. Now the piss break match is the one you got to worry about.
Yeah.
Let's see. So eventually, Orange Cassidy does go over in this one, and I liked it because it was sort of a throwback to his international title run, where he would be getting kind of just beaten down at the end, and then would catch the person in a pin unexpectedly, which is what he does here. He counters, I think it was a submission attempt by Beretta into his that jackknife pin he does.
Yeah.
And just kind of gets a 3 count, and Beretta's as shocked as anybody. So, yeah, I give it a 3. Fun match. I feel like there's a little more they're going to be doing with this one. And on Dynamite, yeah, they did indicate that there's a little more.
I also enjoy when the hands went in the pocket and he turned things around on Trent. He did the variation of Sloth style where he fakes it. He starts with the Sloth kicks and then immediately launches into the stiff ones.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, now I think this was the match where I'd mentioned that I'd had a lot going on that day, so I hadn't had much to eat. So at a certain point, I did get up and just start I had some leftover burgers from a Memorial Day thing. So I just started grilling burgers in my kitchen and kind of looking over towards the TV.
Yeah, our man got up and started playing Burger Time.
Just, and this was it was the Jericho match. So if he's not going to go off TV for a little while, I'm going to go away from the TV for a little while he's on. Which I love Jericho, but
ironic that you sat through the popcorn match, but you got up during your own personal popcorn match.
Yeah, his whole thing now is leaning into Jericho uses too much TV time. Jericho just is this vortex that takes away from other talent, and trying to make that an on-screen gimmick, which acknowledging the problem doesn't make it not a problem. Even in wrestling, where so often you make reality part of the story.
Well, because part of the problem there is in order to make it work, you have to get even more outrageous with it.
Yeah.
If you just acknowledge it and keep doing it, that doesn't do anything for anybody.
Yeah, and
that's just so you're messing with me and you're not going to stop. Okay, good night.
And he's giving it his all. He's doing the sort of there's sort of a cheesy TV host energy to what he's doing. It's the super positive, smiling all the time, even while he's
super positive, super
heel.
Gracious to his opponents, kind of thing. Yeah,
he's making it work, and I could see if he'd gone away for a bit and come back, but after he's kind of just started to feel like somebody who really is taking up oxygen from other performers. It's hard for me to get too into this one, especially because, and we should mention the actual match. It's a triple threat match for the FTW Championship.
That's for the world,
as Jericho has clarified. Defending it against Hook and Katsuyori Shibata. And it's FTW rules, so triple threats are always no DQ, but this is extra special no DQ. Jericho, he does dump a bag of dice out in the ring, which...
That was honestly one of the most terrifying things I've seen wrestlers take bumps on.
I do appreciate that they're making more and more of a thing where somebody pulls, the sack from under the ring. And traditionally, that was always thumbtacks. But now you're seeing more that it's in one of his matches with Shibata, it was he dumped hockey pucks in the ring. They've done it with Legos.
The thing about Legos, because I know I've seen that done plenty of times too.
The plural of Lego is
I need you to cut her mic.
The thing about Lego.
No, go ahead. You've ground my thought process to the halt.
That's what I'm good at.
I don't know why that's getting me.
Because she just actually me the hardest I've ever been actually before.
Anyway, Chris, you were talking about Lego blocks.
Yes, so Legos are Lego TM. Well, I've seen them been dumped out and used before. The thing is that for the most part, they're small and they're flat. So it's if they're spread out, they're still gonna hurt. But you can kind of spread that mass out over it in a way where it's not gonna be as bad. Because the thing about stepping on a Lego is that's your whole weight. It's the whole weight of your foot on that one piece. Yeah. So it hurts more. It's like the principle behind a bed of nails, actually.
Yeah.
So dice are different.
Yeah.
Dice are bigger, thicker, and they don't group like that when they're dumped out.
No.
So you're hitting just random pockets of at least a half inch to an inch thick piece of hard plastic. Unforgiving plastic, and you're rolling across them. You're getting suplexed onto him.
Yeah, they were, because Jericho immediately takes 2 suplexes onto them. He takes one from Hook and then one from Shibata, but then they're kind of just scattered around the ring. So it felt like almost every bump somebody took in the ring had at least 2 dice under them.
That's right. Every one of those, they took at least multiple D6 damage.
I was going to say, I'm imagining somebody actually like watching it in like freeze frame HD and like calculating how much damage each person's taking. Yeah, but again, it's a hardcore match, so a lot of weapons, a lot of spots.
Yeah.
We get tables and kendo sticks. Big Bill eventually runs in, and again, I don't mind the interference so much in this one because it is a sort of a no DQ FTW rules. And pretty amazing spot where Hook gives him a suplex through a table, and
And he almost missed being impaled by a table.
yeah, there were a couple of spots that the
I
tables
didn't
were
see
not
that clearly
super-
when we were watching it, but I saw the clip again on Twitter, and it's like he goes through the table, and the leg part, the leg that butts up against the table, the table just went straight through. Like it just went straight. And
So
it's
instead
just,
of it like bending in the middle
Yeah.
and just kind of having a neat pile, yeah.
yeah, it somehow gave right there, and just like right on his side is just that leg part. And
I
it's
hope they
just
fire their table cutting guy.
Well, there were a couple of spots like that because there was another one later where they laid Jericho across the table, and I think Shibata tried to like drive Hook through him.
That's right. They
and just
smeared him off the
hit it.
table.
Yeah, and just all kind of like slid off. It was
You were at it. You weren't in the room.
that
because-
one I had to see later.
But yeah, we all I think me and Gina both did an "I am the table" yell when that happened, because I knew immediately it was going to happen, and they did. They were going to pick that table up, put it in the corner, because like that table's breaking one way or the other.
Yeah. So again, not a match that I was actively hostile to. I just don't love what Jericho's doing, and having Hook repeatedly chase a title and not get there, I do feel like kind of they're in a place where they need to build him, but also I like his losses to look more like his match with Samoa Joe, where we respect his toughness, but he also gets his ass handed to him because Joe is a monster.
Funny, you should say that.
Yeah. And they're teasing that Joe's a little bit like his whole angle is coming back to Hook and just being like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting time with this?
Why are you letting him get one over on you?
So it does eventually, and we have another run-in, this time from a masked figure who comes in with a trash can to lay out Hook and Shibata, removes his mask to reveal... I feel really bad for thinking it was Stokely Hathaway for a second. It's actually Brian Keith, a similarly round-headed, facial-haired man.
Stokely would be happy to know you thought that.
But yeah, the bounty hunter Brian Keith, who's now joining up with Jericho's faction, and Jericho pins Shibata, who I think was in the trash can at the time.
Something like that,
Yeah,
yes.
so 2 3/4, I give it. Again, fun enough match, just... I don't really see the point of the FTW Championship right at this point because we have 2 other like no rule street fight style matches coming up on this card, and they're both a lot better than this one. So it feels like the FTW, if it means anything, it should be like ECW style. Like this is the craziest thing. And when you've got a barbed wire steel cage match and an Anarchy in the Arena match ahead, this one it just. I don't know, it was fun, kind of goofy weapon spots, but not a lot there.
Also, it doesn't mean anything because it's not a recognized title.
Also that, I at this point I need somebody to acknowledge that like Tony's just like, guys, I've been booking matches for this just to get you to leave me alone, but I don't have authority. This isn't my belt. I can't do anything with it.
Oh, so will you just recognize and sanction the title? No.
Speaking of kind of unusual title situations, next up we have the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match Eliminator.
Wait, hold on. Unusual title situations in wrestling, you say?
So John Moxley is in this match as the IWGP World Champion,
Ooh,
but
heard of him.
he's not defending the belt. He's just wrestling a match, and if Takeshita beats him, then he gets a shot at the title down the road.
Now, as odd as that sounds, WWE likes doing that too.
It's not uncommon.
And I think this has a lot to do with IWGP's control over their titles. So.
And that's my thinking, is that like the thinking was that this title's not going to change hands outside of a New Japan event. So because Mox won it at the Windy City event in Chicago, which, as somebody pointed out, After WrestleMania, when Roman Reigns got pinned, was the first time in, I think, 5 years that a member of the Shield had not been a world champion, that at least one member of that faction had been holding a world title in at least one company at some point across that entire 5-year span. And so for a week between WrestleMania and the Windy City event for New Japan, that was not the case. And then Mox immediately won New Japan's world title. So,
Wow.
What a legacy that group's got.
That too.
I was looking forward to this match just because Takeshita always delivers. That guy's just so good. And I think he's one of those wrestlers he can do athletic stuff with Ospreay, but with a guy like Mox who's more of a striker, he just brings it into more of that New Japan style. And it's one of those matches that I love where you see one guy has a strategy. Like he comes in, Mox has an injured arm from being attacked by the Don Callis family on Dynamite, and Takeshita's just like, I'm going to wear that down and eventually pin him. And it's working for most of the match. Like anytime Mox tries to kind of get an advantage, Takeshita attacks the arm, takes him down, and he's building it. But it's not happening fast enough because Mox is just too damn tenacious to get pinned. And eventually, Don Callis does his same spot from earlier, like with Ospreay. He tells him, you got to do this. And so Takeshita grabs chairs and tries throwing him in the ring. And this gives Mox the opportunity to curb stomp Takeshita into that chair while he's getting back in and give him a Death Rider for the pin. So it's like, you had a strategy, it was working, but you got impatient, and Mox pounced. That was a fun match.
I mean, taking your eyes off of him for any amount of time seems like a bad idea.
That angry Cincinnatian is always ready for that. I'm curious to see where they're going. If this is going to be something that happens at so I'm assuming rematch for a New Japan event, maybe.
I'm assuming that's gonna continue on there.
I did decently on my predictions for this event, but this was one that I actually got wrong. I thought it's an eliminator match. Takeshita can win, and then they can have the actual title match on a New Japan card. So why wouldn't they have him go over? But
No title match for him.
Nope. But honestly, the way they told it worked really well. These guys, they play off each other. Every time I think they're keeping Takeshita kind of on simmer for too long, I actually see him in the ring, and I'm just like, nope, they can put a world title on this guy anytime, and he's going to look good. Like you can't. Like that.
I think that's his hidden strength. Is like he's just at some point when they really, really need to. I mean, he should get it. But if they're ever in a trouble spot, he's the kind of guy who you can easily buy. Who could just come in at the right moment and be a champion.
Yeah, and because this is his, I think, third time in a singles match with Moxley, and he's lost all three. But I saw somebody kind of break it down and be like, he's gotten closer each time. And this was he almost had him.
Well, that and the fact that it's just like they're using those to build to the future because it's like they're proving this like, oh yeah, he can hang.
Yeah. But yeah, I gave that one a 4. Just really fun match, good hitting. Mox always has the good hitting, and Takeshita just kept up with him.
He does enjoy the good hitting.
All right. Speaking of I was talking about how the FTW match felt a little undercooked from a hardcore standpoint. We have the barbed wire steel cage match for the TNT Championship between Adam Copeland and Malachi Black. Something that I find really endearing in wrestling is how much Adam Copeland clearly looks back with tremendous fondness on his Brood era. Which I don't think anybody would say that's like their favorite era of Edge's career.
So much so that he made sure to snap up the copyright to the Brood the moment he could.
Yes, he did. He's indicated that this was kind of what he wanted the Judgment Day to be, and one of the reasons that they had the group turn on him was he didn't like the where creative was going to be taking it. So they were like, all right, well, you get kicked out and feud with them, and they can develop their own way as a heel faction. But yeah, like he comes out, the Brood is splashed across his entrance. It's the low lights. He did the blood from the ceiling spot on Malachi previously on Dynamite. Like this was maybe 2 years of his career when he was just starting out in WWE, and it was after he left that he and Christian like went through the TLC phase and became this acclaimed tag team.
Oh yeah,
and then this later career, like, he's just done so much, but it's I just find it really sweet that he looks back on that and was like, man, those were the good days. I want to go back to that. And it extends to the fact that we even see in the end of the ring. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I like this one. The booking for Malachi Black in AEW has been a little weird. Mm-hmm. I'm not the only person to notice that. A lot of rumors and speculation around that, whether it's an injury he's been dealing with, whether he doesn't want to get booked to lose, which has limited the storylines they can put him in. But when he shows up, I still really enjoy seeing him in the ring.
Oh, absolutely. I also enjoyed the setup of this cage, where the rules were explicitly it finishes in the cage. Your leaving doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And the barbed wire was wrapped around the top and ran down the sides.
Yeah, at first, when they said barbed wire, I was thinking, so is the entire thing barbed wire? I was like, no, you've got a lot of it standard chain link, but there's always a spot where you can get thrown into or something you can tear off and use during the match, which they do.
It was in the logical places, being that this is a cage match meant to contain the match. The barbed wire is around the top to prevent any sort of, illicit.
Something like that, yeah. Somebody else. If somebody tries to come in, they're going to get hurt. Is sort of the thing.
You gotta want it.
And both men predictably wind up bleeding pretty heavily very early on in the match.
Oh, it was gross.
Oh yeah. I think Malachi got himself pretty deep because he was just full crimson mask early on. Copeland does in fact go to the top of the cage.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right.
After finding out what happened afterward, I am surprised he finished this match.
Yeah, so apparently he goes up top and does an elbow from the top. I would say a diving elbow, but he doesn't really dive because he keeps his feet under him.
Yeah.
And Malachi Black's on a table, so his elbow hits Malachi at the same time his feet hit the mat.
His feet hit the mat.
And all kind of crumble together. It looks awkward, and we found out later that he fractured a tibia on that landing.
Yes, he did, and he is out.
Yeah, so he's going to be away for a little bit. But like you said, he does finish the match. Like, he's limping, but it did not seem like he was unable to put weight on the leg, or if it was as painful as a break in that area normally is, the dude was just gritting through it like nobody's business.
But
You've also got the adrenaline. That helps.
It must have.
A lot.
But anyway, when the House of Black came out and they faked like they were going to side with Edge and ended up staying with Malachi, and they jumped on Edge, don't worry, Edge was not down and out because he had help.
Yeah, so the lights go down, and then it comes up, and there's a red light. Brody King and Buddy Matthews are looking around.
And I yelled it because I really wanted it to happen, and I couldn't believe it actually was. But Gangrel pops up from the bottom of the ring.
Comes through, lays out both Matthews and King with his DDTs, and then gets kicked in the face.
DDT.
The Impaler DDT.
Still looked awesome.
Yeah, and then, again, just how much love Copeland has to be like, dude, I think at some point he'd said he'd planned to have...
he wanted this to happen in WWE too.
Yeah, like he wanted to come back at like WrestleMania, I think, when he did that, and there was some reason it didn't work out, and he
WWE didn't want it.
Yeah, he publicly
Shocker.
apologized and been like, I'm so sorry, man, I wanted to make it work. I hope this didn't inconvenience you with anything else. But he made good, and Gangrel gets back in and gets kicked in the face by Malachi Black for his trouble. But yeah, he does lay out Brody King and Buddy Matthews and clears the way for a pretty nasty looking spear because they wrapped barbed wire around Copeland. They were like putting him like a crucifix position with barbed wire, and he still got it wrapped around him when he spears Malachi. So that can't have felt great. And then puts him in a crossface with the barbed wire across the face. And he doesn't tap, but the ref stops when he's clearly losing consciousness. So Adam Copeland retains, only to have to relinquish the belt a couple of days later.
It's the classic, I lost, but you didn't beat me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's going to be out for a little bit, but it was a good match, and honestly a pretty good run with the TNT title. I gave that one, I gave it 3 3/4.
Okay.
Just, fun, intense match. Really, the only thing that really kind of knocks it down is I still don't know quite what they're doing with Malachi, because it feels like they keep teeing him up for like some kind of dominant win, but the last real tear they've been on was when they won the trios titles, and since then it's been sort of like they keep coming back, and I think they are one of those factions that they need to have something to kind of put their name on, apart from just being the scary guys with the spooky entrances. But
Well, I mean, they're also Julia Hart's scary uncles.
yeah, as soon as Julia gets back, that's when things are really going to kick into gear for the group. And meanwhile, Sky Blue is, I guess, just sort of like running around with nobody, because I don't think she ever got full membership in the house. She was just Julia's side piece. Okay, we're coming now into, geez, I hate that they did this. The triple main event. I'm going to be fair across the board here. I hated it when WWE started doing that, and I don't like it when
All right,
AEW
so here's
does
a point
it.
I've heard someone else make that I fully agree with. When you have a triple main event, you have no main event, because
Yeah.
main event is one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Credit AEW, at least it is the last 3 matches on the card. So
Right.
they're just trying, as opposed to it being, all right, the first, third, and 7th matches are all our main events, which
That's
is what
not how that
WWE's tried
works.
to do. But yeah, no, it's just like, I'm sorry, the main event of this is Anarchy in the Arena.
Yep.
That's just,
Just say that. I was like, I know Swerve is big. Then if you want him to be the biggest thing, make him the main event.
so you cannot have it both ways. And one of the things that people preferred AEW over compared to WWE was that you didn't have this sort of, we're going to keep using this phraseology until you accept it as real, that they were a little more straight talking with the wrestling fans. And I don't want to see them go down that road, even if maybe it's inevitable as you get bigger in an inherently carny kind of business. But anyway, just going to register that, and then
It's a compromise, not a great one, but it's the idea of, well, if we don't call this match the main event, the fans of these people are going to be mad. If we don't call this one the main event, so it's just like triple main event, and now everyone's angry.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
For all that, I am happy that we are getting this much attention on the TBS Championship. I
Sure.
do feel like they're boosting that up a lot. As we see Willow Nightingale defending it against Mercedes Moné in her first match back in a wrestling ring, I think since, I meant to look this up, I want to say it was March 2023 when she broke her ankle in a match for New Japan. She, as they made a big point of in the build-up to this, that was her match against Willow Nightingale to inaugurate the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Mercedes was supposed to win that match, but when she broke her ankle during it, they called an audible and had Willow go over.
Neat.
Yeah, so Willow got to hold her title for a little while, and she got to hold the TBS Championship. And I love Willow. She's just one of the most like natural, lovable baby faces I've seen in a very long time. And I think we all kind of knew what was happening when they booked this match for her and Mercedes. Like they did not sign Mercedes, give her the huge Chicago debut, and just to have her immediately come up short in her return match. Although that would have been a pretty impressive turn. But I do wish Willow's run had lasted longer. Like I wish they'd found a way to stretch this, like give Mercedes something else for her comeback match, and then book this down the road. But it was a pretty good match. I'm not as harsh on Sasha Banks as some of the people in our viewing group. I know, Cara, I know your husband's really not a big fan of her.
Yeah. I'm not either.
I like her. She's of the 4 horsewomen. I would say she's well behind Becky Lynch and Bayley in kind of my estimation. But she's got presence, and she knows how to handle herself in the ring.
I guess I mean, I'm not going to deny I'm not going to deny that she's talented. Her presentation doesn't do much for me.
I think what she's struggling with is it feels like, and I think we might have talked about this the night of.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of people who've come to AEW from WWE, but they had an indie run before that. Like you have
Right.
people where it's just sort of like, okay, going back to AEW is going back to my bread and butter. It's moving away from the very catchphrase heavy, make sure you say what we're going to print on the T-shirt, promo style that WWE is big on.
Right.
And Sasha Banks got her start in NXT. She came up through there. Like WWE has been her thing for a long time. And I do feel like when you see her cut promos, there is still that kind of style of like, I'm going to, say a line, pause for... She's
She's terrible.
I don't think she's terrible. I think she's got the energy. She's just taking longer than I would have thought to get herself on the wavelength that AEW promos usually go on, because usually so much of AEW is like, I'm going to get real with you guys. I'm going to say the stuff that I know you've all been thinking. I'm going to acknowledge stuff that's happening elsewhere in other companies. And yeah, I don't think she's quite gotten that wavelength yet. But I will say again, I liked her in the ring. I think she looked good coming back. They told a good story with she was going after Willow's leg a lot and kind of a tit for tat thing. I think as Willow got a little more desperate, I think she started trying to attack that same area. So this actually ended up being, and this isn't a great distinction, but it's the longest women's match that AEW's ever had at 18 minutes, which isn't great. But Mercedes actually, she was also in the longest women's match in WWE. There was apparently an Iron Woman match with Charlotte Flair that I think went 34 minutes. So she does hold that distinction for both companies. But yeah, fun match. Willow was accompanied by Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. And at one point, Statlander got up to try and distract Mercedes and got knocked off the apron for trouble. Stokely got up to try to call the ref's attention to it, which meant that Aubrey missed Mercedes getting rolled up for one of those, the crowd counts 1, 2, 3, and then Aubrey turns around. But by the time she starts counting, Mercedes gets the kick out. An accident? ?
No, as we would come to find out a few minutes later. But yeah, because it turns out, after Willow loses, Chris Statlander is helping Willow up and berating Stokely for ruining her chances and everything. And then she basically short arm clotheslines Willow and turns heel.
Yep, and just stands over her. And the crowd, because during the match, the crowd was pretty, there were dueling chants for both women. When Mercedes won, she did get kind of, I would say she got a little bit of heat mixed in with the cheers. It wasn't overwhelmingly one or the other, but not everybody in that building was happy. But when Statlander turns, that got a lot of angry reactions.
Her and Stokely turned on Willow.
Yeah, so I gave the match itself a 4. I thought really solid. Both women told a good story. Loved Willow as a champion. I think Mercedes has a lot to prove in AEW, that she's worth the attention and presumably the very large stack of money they've given her. But this is a good start, I think, for her and her in-ring in AEW. Also, just to jump back again to the Dynamite that followed up here, they actually had Statlander cut a promo backstage on why she turned on Willow, and I don't know if she's been working with Stokely or somebody else, but she has gotten really good at talking, because that used to be a real struggle for her.
So we're officially on the countdown to Dogs saying that he's turned a corner on Statlander.
Oh, I'm just putting that marker down.
Yeah.
I'm putting it here. Timestamp it if you want to.
Got it.
I'm looking at my watch as if that's going to help me know where it is.
You can look at that timer.
All right, so next up we come to part 2 of our triple main event of Swerve Strickland defending his AEW World Championship against the Patriarch, Christian Cage. I don't think anybody really thought Christian was going to go over here, but man, that dude is so much fun as a heel.
It was such a fun match, ludicrous to say the.
Watching the whole build to this, and I do love whenever you have a heel who turns face right as they get to have people come back and be like, "Do you remember this terrible thing you did to me last year?" Like Nick Wayne coming in and being like, "You came into the ring where my dad trained me, beat me bloody, and then your friend was walking around with a shirt soaked in my blood for weeks." Mm-hmm. And Swerve's just like, what are you gonna do about it? But.
No, it reminds me of that tweet. Was one of my favorite ones that gets thrown around on Twitter when people post something really long. He's like, "Man, I'm not reading all that. I'm sorry that happened." I was like, "I'm happy for you," or "I'm sorry that happened."
But yeah, so you've got Nick Wayne and Shayna Wayne and Kill Switch all around the outside, and there's the usual interference. But this was a 24-minute match, so one of the longer ones on the card, but. They just moved it really smoothly. I mean, Christian just underrated as a guy who just knows how to just the psychology to make a wrestling match just flow the way it needs.
This is one of the best runs I've ever seen him on in total. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a lot of people have gotten their kind of late an unexpected final arc in AEW, and I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be one of the people who gets looked at the best at.
Oh yeah.
Sting is sort of going to be kind of the Uber example because nobody ever thought he'd be like in wrestling again, let alone in a ring. But yeah, Christian Cage, maybe not too far behind.
Oh, definitely not.
And another table spot in here. They go out to the outside, brawl over to the announce table, and Swerve does his double stomp to Christian on there. Table just does not break.
No.
It looked messy. It might have been.
There's also the ring step spot that happened.
Remind me on that one.
Oh, I can't remember who, but I think it might have been Swerve getting suplexed onto the ring steps after they got moved.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh,
It's like he took it right on the corner too. I remember
so
that now.
Nasty, yeah.
Ugh. But yeah, good match.
The interference bit was a bit more fun in this one because it was what's Nick Wayne's mom?
Shayna.
Shayna looked like she was going to try and use the title to interfere. So Prince Nana grabs it from her, which she did to make sure the ref saw Nana with the belt. So he gets tossed. And then I forget how later, but everyone ends up getting tossed.
Yeah.
But I forget how they got caught later. But
Yeah, this was another one I think where I stepped out to make burgers and I rewatched part of it. I think it was the next day, but I admit my notes are not that good on it. But
it was fun. It was
yeah.
a fun sequence of like them getting caught and being like getting thrown out.
And that's always the thing with AEW is like even when you look at something like they're maybe doing this bit a little more than they need to on a single card, the individual pieces usually still work.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
they're very good at finding like the way to make that
Everyone,
entertaining.
it's like even when you see something repeat, usually everyone has their own twist on it.
Yeah. And the ending to this match is just one of the coolest. We've seen kind of a big thing of the people come off the ropes and like collide in midair in one way or another. Like we've seen, Ricochet and Logan Paul do like their dueling crossbodies at the Rumble, a lot of stuff like that. But this one, Christian and Swerve, they're both going off the ropes, and I think like Swerve goes for a lariat, Christian ducks under it. They both go off the opposite side. Christian tries to come back for a spear, and Swerve kicks him in the head in midair with his house call.
Yeah, and then he lands another one. They're two of the smoothest fucking hits I've ever seen.
Like
and with the camera positioning, they were just beautiful.
And he just makes it look so natural. It's like that's the kind of move that you could do that well, let's be frank. Nobody in like a mile radius of this conversation could do that. When I say you could do that, I mean Swerve could do that like 100 times, and if he got it right like 1 in 5 times, you'd be amazed. But just to see him do it, it's just like, oh, nothing, and then, do it again and finish the match. And again, credit Christian, because to receive that, you've got to be in the perfect position. You can't. Oh man, yeah. So great match. Continuing a strong run for Swerve as champion. I gave it 4 1/4. I think people were saying though maybe the match was hurt a little bit by the fact that it was kind of predictable that he wasn't going to be losing it this early. I'm never bothered by that, especially champions almost never lose it immediately.
Go back and watch the Swerve Dustin Runnels match. It's like you remember that was something they had to rebook on the fly because I forget what the.
I think it was supposed to be him versus Keith Lee.
Yeah, that's right, and Keith had to sit out. But they turned that into something incredibly good.
Yeah.
And just for something that was like last minute booking for reasoning and match type and how that went. Excellent match.
It reminds me of the movie Furiosa is playing right now. And as with any movie, there are good takes and dumb takes.
Right.
One dumb take going around is, well, it's a prequel. Where's the drama? You know where these characters are going to end up. Setting aside the fact you have a bunch of characters in the prequel who don't appear in the later film, so you don't know where they're going, the idea that, like, if you know the ending, then there's no way to enjoy a story is just one of the weirdest ways to approach something. That, like, there's no way for that journey to go.
However, having seen Furiosa, I can tell you there are no fucking stakes in that movie.
Really?
No.
I feel like I've seen a couple of people getting impaled. Doesn't a car run into some stakes as it's trying to drive under a gate? The stakes are, will Chris Hemsworth mustache fly off his face from the sheer force of Australian hamminess?
He's making notes. He's gonna be editing.
But yeah, no. So I loved it, and I'm gonna say if people want unpredictable, and so have either of y'all seen this week's Dynamite?
I know what happened, but
Yeah. So they have another casino gauntlet match to determine, and it's. I'm actually really liking this match format. It's just essentially people come in every 2 minutes. It's sudden death. Whoever gets the first pinfall wins, and the match ends there. And the implication, I think, is that they'll just keep sending people out until somebody gets pinned. I don't think they've ever said specifically that it's only like 10 or 15 participants. It's just eventually someone gets a pin and the match is over.
of course AEW would dream up what is essentially a forever match.
Yeah, one day they're going to open Dynamite with that, and literally the entire show will just be.
I keep harping on that, but that's really my only gripe with AEW is like they would go forever if you'd let them.
They
it's
literally named their video game that.
It's like I gotta tap out.
But so you've got all the a lot of people coming out. You've got Hechicero from CMLL. You've got Leo Rush coming back. A lot of exciting stuff, and Will Ospreay's in there, just in the mix. But obviously, he's not going to win because he's just won the international championship. So except Will Ospreay wins. So
Here's why I think they did that, because if they're setting up, they're going to have this exciting match. He could possibly win. I don't think he will, but his standing in AEW will still look stronger especially for people who aren't as familiar with him if he goes in as a champion and still is a champion at the end.
yeah, and I think this is what they're ready for Swerve, because this is one where Ospreay could win. He's on an incredible tear for his sort of rookie run, but if he beats Swerve, Swerve's not going to look weak. Although I think it'll be a little abrupt, but I mean, losing to Ospreay, there's definitely nothing to be ashamed of in that. But Swerve winning this after what I'm sure is going to be like a 30, 35, maybe 45-minute absolute battle.
I'm leaning that way because Ospreay can easily eat a loss. He's a guy who's like, that's not going to hurt him at all.
Yeah, and he's still got his title, but that's what they said. That's now the main event of Forbidden Door is Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland. So, yeah, I think again Ospreay's had a great run this year in chasing and winning Swerve has had a great run this year chasing and winning the AEW World Championship. But this seems like if this is not in the match of the year list, I mean, this has got to be at least a top 10. I'm excited for that. And really bummed out that I'm not going to be able to record an episode on that because I'm going on vacation the week of Forbidden Door. So whoever records an episode on that, it will be with a guest host. Sad. But I will watch it as soon as I can and probably just go completely crazy for it. Man, my segues are good today. Speaking of going completely crazy, we have Anarchy in the Arena. An 8-man Anarchy in the Arena match with the Elite, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, your EVPs, Kazuchika Okada and Jack Perry, the Scapegoat, against Team AEW, which after a couple of on-the-fly sub-ins due to some injuries is Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, Darby Allin, and Bryan Danielson. I'm sad Eddie Kingston wasn't able to be here for this one.
Yeah.
Him being out with an injury sucks, but honestly, Darby Allin.
I think he's maddest he didn't get to set someone on fire.
And they were going to do that this year. Oh. But yeah, Darby Allin, honestly, if you want somebody kind of representing core AEW against the Elite, the only reason that Darby wasn't their first pick was probably because he broke his foot and then got hit by a bus. So yeah, obviously he's not going to be in a wrestling ring.
Oh, wait, here he is.
Oh, hey.
He already went out while you were saying all that.
And he's got a flamethrower and is ready to cough and drop off whatever you want to do.
He tried to drown Jack Perry.
Yeah, he may have gotten hit by a bus. The camera work on that spot was a little unclear. But
you mean Jack Perry's sword bus?
Yeah. his scapegoat bus. Yeah, it's something. This is another match where it's hard to describe as anything other than just a series of, and this insane thing happened. And
Jack Perry attempted vehicular manslaughter and crashed himself into a side of a building.
And Darby is like, vehicular manslaughter? Don't need no stinking cars. And comes back at Jack Perry with a flamethrower later. And you mentioned him nearly drowning, which was a really pretty nice bit of setup because...
Oh, yeah, they made sure he was wet down for... apparently after the fact, I saw on Twitter, someone reposted the fact that Jack Perry had apparently done this kind of stunt on his own before,
I remember seeing a video now that you're talking
Yes.
about it. Yeah. And
He had, like, I don't think it was practiced specifically for this match, but he had done something like this before, just on his free time. So it was like, I'm guessing when that spot, I'm guessing he and Darby were like, hey, we could do that spot in the match, and they were both like, hell yeah.
Darby
Yes.
Allin coming out with a flamethrower on the Go
my
Home
God.
Dynamite. And I don't know if he couldn't or if this is just how the device works. Like, it was never not shooting fire was the thing. I assumed that, like,
Well,
Yeah, no, they
It's like
have
a
it's like a
pilot light?
pilot light. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember talking to Gina about that. Yeah, it's like there's a pilot light that's always on, and
Gotta get flame somewhere.
because if it cuts off, it's like, say, like a heater in your house. The pilot light's out, you have to relight it, and it takes a little while.
so, same with the flamethrower, just keeping people warm in a much more concise radius. But yeah, so just so many fun, crazy spots in this.
Oh yeah,
so
it immediately went off the rails. Let's talk about Daniel Bryan coming out and no, it was
So-
originally. Oh, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
so after because the Elite are making their entrance and Team AEW just starts attacking them immediately, like before there are no official entrances for Bryan or
Smart
FTR or
thing to do.
anything. And at some point, Matthew Jackson grabs a mic and demands that they start playing the EVP's music.
They knew jacket if you understand what that means.
Yeah. And then Bryan gets his hands on a microphone and is like, no, play the best fucking song in professional wrestling. And so the final countdown starts going. And a few minutes later,
During
after
the
brawling,
match, yeah.
Matthew grabs the mic again and is like, turn that off.
He grabs a mic he has a mic in the stands.
Yeah, somebody, like, they're all over the arena, and he just manages to get his hands on. Turn that off. It's costing us like $100,000.
It costs us $200,000 every time they play that song. We
can't afford to do
I
this.
don't understand it's like, I understand what he's saying, but I don't understand the logic there because it was still playing from the first time. This was the first time we'd ever heard it get to lyrics during a show.
I was like, do they get a refund if they cut it off at 1 minute 45 versus 2 minutes 15?
because that song has like a minute and a half instrumental lead in.
Oh man, but yeah, so it's anarchy in the arena. It's all like they're up and down through the crowd. FTR stick close to the ring. In a no DQ, all weapons allowed match, I kind of wondered if like they were gonna do maybe a Brian Pillman spot with Cash Wheeler, have him pull a 9mm on somebody during the match.
I mean,
but
come on. Wait,
they can't try him twice for the same crime. He already got off.
this is an entirely different crime. Plus, it's one of those things. Is like I'm surprised you don't see more angles like that because it's like in my understanding of how wrestling works, you are essentially, even though it is a business, you are essentially fighting other people for a living, and it's like this is essentially what you're doing in the ring is essentially self-defense, and in the parameters of a match where anything goes.
Where again, people getting set on fire is like not. They don't
That's
stop
legal.
the match. Nobody's like, oh, whoa, call it off. Everybody go home. This is not okay.
The bloodier the better.
Yeah.
And there is indeed a lot of blood in this one. I think Dax Harwood. I think
He never misses a
played
chance.
himself pretty bad.
Yes, he did.
So yeah, you've got So we should mention that the flamethrower spot. So it's not just it's after Jack Perry tries to ram Darby with his bus. He comes from backstage and comes out dragging Tony Khan, but he does not realize that just between the entrance tunnels is Darby with his flamethrower. And so Tony does an adorable roll down the ramp, and some fan videos show just like the enthusiasm with which this guy is going. It's like kids rolling down like a hill at like outside the youth group room or something.
Fun.
But yeah.
It reminds me of that scene in The Simpsons where Homer is, I forget which episode. It's the one where Homer is trying to track down Moe because he's done something to screw him over, and he is relentlessly trying to track him down. And at one point, he's commandeered a library book like cart that he's using to speed toward wherever he is, and he's going, "Must kill Moe, wee! Must kill Moe, wee!"
Yeah, very much Tony Khan's energy in that. But yeah, so Jack Perry does in fact get fully lit up, and as somebody noticed, he claimed he had forgiven Tony Khan for suspending him, and he turned out to be a liar.
Well, of course, yeah.
And so on Double or Nothing, his pants were on fire.
I love it.
He's not cutting us off. Okay, that's good.
What?
Oh, that'll teach you to stop listening.
That's about the level of attention I expected.
But yeah, so it's like a 30-minute match. There's so much craziness. I don't think we could describe all of it. But
You
ends
really
with,
can't.
It ends with Jack Perry taking out Bryan Danielson with his own move, with his own finisher, and pinning him for the win.
And Darby is like suspended over the ring by his ankles at some point.
They were going to
I
pinata him if they
I
had
did
the
not
time.
like that.
Dax Harwood got taken out with an exploding chair to the face.
Yes, that's right. They did. And at one point, the EVPs used their new custom Reeboks to attack the.
Yes,
the commercials
that
for
had-
those are amazing.
That had thumbtacks glued
Yeah.
to the bottom.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they had done that before, but now they had their own special version.
And they got a matching a thumbtack sleeve for Okada, which he
That's
used to
right.
Rainmaker cash, and that's what
forgot
took
that.
him out. So it was a great, like, I love the go home of this, not just being okay and then one guy gets pinned and it's over. It's like just each member of Team AEW gets there. Okay, they're out, they're down, and at the end, you've got Danielson against like the 3 members, and he does pretty well for a minute, but eventually, yeah, like you said, he gets taken down, and
Yep.
Jack Perry finishes him off with a running knee. So the Elite are still standing tall.
Yeah. When done well, I really enjoy this kind of match.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's something about the extra chaos, but the whole, we're going, through the arena and we're going to go, all these other random places. And I really did appreciate that they had like the 4 split screen kind of thing at one point. I want to see more of that.
AEW does a good job of keeping track of all their working parts. Or
I
moving parts, I
Yeah,
should say.
I need that. I need more of that.
The only issue was it was a little unclear when they did the bus, the vehicular manslaughter spot. It was a little unclear who he was hitting and where they were. Like, presumably Darby was in front of the bus somewhere.
Yeah,
but, I was
couldn't
like, is he
tell.
dodging out of the way? Was he under the pile of things that the bus hit? I mean, the spot itself looked awesome. I was just sort of like, I wish we'd seen like 30 seconds leading up to it. Mm-hmm. But I'm loving this whole angle.
Darby, I
because-
assume, went prone and slid under the bus.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of thought maybe he
drop
just like,
flat.
jumped over it, like a superhero, because he's also
Like drop flat on his own skateboard and like hold on to the underside of the
Yeah.
bus while it's driving.
that I could see.
Jack Perry's the bus that couldn't slow down.
Bleh.
I was about to make that exact same reference.
We make a lot of Simpsons. Have you seen that one? I've never wanted this podcast to just be a bunch of Simpsons quote, but it's one of the best ones where Homer talks about a movie he saw about a bus that had to speed around the city, and if its speed went under a certain amount, its bomb would explode. So they had to keep speeding everywhere they went. I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
Nice.
But yeah, so apparently Jack Perry has just been driving that thing from show to show. Like people have like there've been some social media posts of him just like on a highway, just going between arenas.
Random.
Yeah, which seems like a nice way. Hey, get your own bus. That's the real stardom.
I mean, hey, just get somebody to drive me in that bus.
I like the story they're doing with the Elite. I like that it's not exactly a full takeover as much as just a very in-house corporate feud of like, well, I'm going to book this. Well, I'm going to book that.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
they are. There is that fun power dynamic of like, yeah, you have a lot of power and you can, but guess what? There is countering that there are checks and balances here. So it's like you can keep pushing for your own way, but it's like no, we can hard counter this.
Yeah, so they've already announced that Christopher Daniels is going to be kind of the on-screen rep for Tony Khan. That's kind of pushing back against the Elite. So
Because Omega has to recover from surgery and everything.
needs to get all of his organs back in the right place.
Yes.
All right, so yeah, that was AEW Double or Nothing. Fun show. I wouldn't say quite up there with Revolution this year or Dynasty, but still really solid, really good time. Do you guys have a MVP on this card? I keep meaning to do that more consistently, and I'm actually making a little note for myself here.
I'll say Jack Perry.
Yeah,
Jack Perry, like you're obvious. You're going to be one of the top people in the running for that kind of thing. When you let yourself get lit on fire.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just love Darby Allin.
And his work toward making a comeback has been incredible ever since the incident last year. So
Yeah, just one of the best ways to handle all of that, just to rolled in, because I always wonder, like, what do you do with a guy who now has like this section of the audience that's going to hate him no matter what, and a section of the audience that's going to love him no matter what, and then just this is the best thing to do, like make the booze part of it. Yeah, so let's see. I think for me, I got to give it up to Willow Nightingale. Just again,
Sure.
If you watch the videos, like while she was TBS champion, she was like visiting classrooms of children. She was just doing the sweetest stuff, like crammed like a 6-month championship like worth of activities into like the month and a half she had this belt. But she won it from Julia at Dynasty, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so overall, I'm going to give this one overall 3.25 out of 5 recently escaped goats. Yeah. So again, solid show. Didn't quite feel like it had all the moments that usually make AEW like make their shows so good, but again, very excited to see where they're coming, and I anticipate getting just blown out of the water by Forbidden Door, because they're working apparently CMLL in along with New Japan. So you're going to have the Lucha guys, you're going to have the New Japan guys, and you've got Swerve and Ospreay as a main event, which that's going to be hard to beat.
Nice.
All right. David, you have anything you'd like to share with the nice folks at home?
What?
I know.
All right.
Not even 90 minutes, and we're ready to do.
No, so this is the second part of our double feature that's coming out this weekend. Right before this, Shelby Death Ray Patterson and your lovely wife Gina, bless your heart, Belmont, did an episode of This Is a Takeover. And as I was saying on there, I've given up on trying to predict when the hell we're going to do another Long Walk Talks.
When's the next one?
I've given up on trying to predict it.
So
It'll happen when it
It
happens.
stands in fucking Africa right now. So maybe before the summer's out, we'll do an episode. I don't know.
next week sounds like.
Yeah. Right now, this channel is all wrestling all the time, and honestly, whatever. That's what's bringing in the listens, the downloads, because the difference in downloads between like Long Walk Talks and Long Walk Teeny Talks versus all the wrestling shows is enormous. People tune into this network for the wrestling, and I don't blame them. So I have no idea what's coming up next. I know we got Forbidden Door at the end of the month and whatever the hell else is happening wrestling wise.
I am going to step in real quick because I made this mistake myself last time and heard about it. The co-host of This Is a Takeover is Gina, bless your heart, Brafford. Wave wedding ring. I said it wrong last time, and she quite energetically corrected me later. So
Wait, what did I say? Did I say Brafford or Belmont?
You said Belmont.
Oh, well, that's...
I said Brafford, right?
Yes,
Yes.
you did.
Okay.
It's heavily fucking ingrained
I hope
because
so,
I'm the
because
one
Belmonts hold a grudge.
Yeah. I'm the one who gave her the Bless Your Heart nickname, and now no one ever fucking uses it, but it's still heavily ingrained in there in my head. But anyway, Robert, if people want to follow you online or reach out to you online, where can they do that at? That's not Twitter.
Well, the platform formerly known as Twitter is the only place where I maintain my lonely fire in an isolated cave on social media. I guess I'm on Facebook, but if you know my last name, we're probably already friends. So, yeah, that's about it.
All right, Cara, what about you? If people want to reach out to you online or follow you online?
Let's see. I'm on Instagram, and I honestly don't even remember what my handle is. So let me look that up real quick.
History
something about
Nerd
History
something.
Nerd or something.
Yeah, I don't. You got.
Yeah,
some,
History Nerd 1861.
There you
That's
go.
me.
Fantastic, Chris. What about you?
I don't talk to nothing about nobody.
All right. That sounds good. You can follow me online on Instagram at DBHensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, that's right. I keep this in front of me, and I started to do it by memory. It's been a long
you
day.
wrote it down.
I did. I got it pulled up in front of me, and I was going to try to do it by memory anyway. This is what happens when you do two episodes back to
The
back.
stubbornness of the human spirit.
Yeah. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you are listening on.
And just remember, folks, you got out of bed this morning, had a job to go to, had somebody who loved you. Well, it sounds like you bet on yourself, and that paid off double. Or nothing. This has been This Is a Work.
Legos is perfectly acceptable. Don't believe the propaganda.
Boo.